Eyes wide open. Step into the shadows. If you think the stories are just myths, think again. Now let's take a look.
Why do people around the world see the exact same shadowy figure in their bedroom at night? The answer might haunt you. I'm Nala, and what I'm about to tell you might keep you up at night. You wake up at 3 a.m. There's a dark figure in the corner, tall, shadowy, no face. You try to move, nothing. You try to scream, your voice is gone. This is sleep paralysis. Your mind is awake, but your body is still frozen in sleep. But here's what's truly terrifying. Across the entire world, people describe the exact same figure. Not similar, identical. Someone in Japan sees it, they call it kanashibari. Someone in Newfoundland sees it, they call it the old hag. Someone in Egypt sees it, they call it a jinn. Cambodia, Brazil, Mexico, everywhere. The same tall, shadowy figure standing in the corner just watching. But how is that possible? Scientists say it's hypnagogic hallucinations. Your brain's fear center creates a threat to explain why you're paralyzed. But that doesn't seem to explain why we all create the same entity. Same height, same shape, same corner of the room, and that same feeling of pure dread. So is it hardwired into human DNA? Like a shared nightmare that's been passed down through evolution? Or is there something else watching us that we only see when we're trapped between sleep and consciousness?
Have you ever felt like someone or something was watching you, but you turn around and nothing's there? Let's talk about shadow people. These mysterious shadow-like figures can be absolutely terrifying. Most people claim to see them in their peripheral or edge of their vision and never really straight on. However, there are instances of that happening. They often have no distinct features, just a human-shaped silhouette. Sometimes they will have eyes, most of the time they do not, and for the most part, when you first see them, you'll go to look at them and they literally will dissipate in front of your eyes. Sometimes. These encounters are usually very brief, but they are burned into your memory for life. There's a bunch of different theories about what shadow people actually are. Some people believe they're just ghosts that don't have enough energy to fully manifest. Others think that they're interdimensional beings that are accidentally crossing into our reality. And the darkest part, some people believe that they are demons. People believe that they show up in situations of high stress or trauma. So most people, if they're battling mental illness, they often are attracted to those individuals. Or you take places like Waverly Hills Sanatorium, for example, places that are steeped in tragedy, and they're often found there. But again, that doesn't mean that all shadow people are demons. They could manifest as a shadow figure when they're just a low vibrational entity. Now, sleep paralysis is a whole other thing. Most of the time, people seem to see a figure in a hat, also known as the Hatman. So this here is the Hatman. He's often 6 to 10 feet tall. He usually has red glowing eyes or eyes that are darker than dark. And typically, he has a trench coat and a hat. It's always a hat, which is why he's called the Hatman. He usually comes to people who are in sleep paralysis and lurks in doorways and watches them, or in corners. Or the most terrifying part, sometimes he needs a closer look and will stand directly above your face and just stare at you. Now, for the most part, people say that when they see shadow figures, they're overcome with a sense of dread and despair. I myself have come into contact with a bunch of shadow figures, unfortunately, and it is a very overwhelming feeling. But again, this isn't the case for every single one of them. So, are shadow people just tricks of the mind, or are they something much darker?
When I was 8 years old, my family packed up and moved into a new home. So this house was actually passed down from generation to generation. And we were the first family to move in that had no relation to the original owners. So naturally, weird things started happening right away. Doors were opening and shutting by themselves. People were feeling touched. People were seeing apparitions. But this is my story. This is what happened to me, and it's really kind of hard to believe. Like I said, this house had been passed down from generation to generation, and over the years, the owners had put additions to the home. So when I first moved in when I was 8 years old, I lived in one of the rooms that had been an addition. It wasn't from the original build. And I never had anything weird happen to me in any of the rooms that I moved into that were, part of the addition until my brothers moved out and I took over their space downstairs. You see, their room was one of the original bedrooms in the house. And I just didn't think anything weird would happen. I was not worried about it at all. I knew my house was haunted, but I never had anything quite that scary happen to me until then. So, have you heard of shadow people? If you have, that's what I was dealing with in that room. So it started off where I would just see them every once in a while, like once a month, then a couple times a month, several times a week, to almost every single night. Now this went on my whole high school career until I was in my early 20s when I still lived with my parents. Ask me why I dealt with it, I can't explain, but it just sort of became like a normal routine for me. I wasn't sure if it was just my eyes playing tricks, to be honest, or if it was actually happening. But it did get to the point I was so frustrated with it that I would literally wake up in the middle of the night, see the shadow figure standing there, and throw some fists in the air like I was trying to punch something that was invisible. I was getting very frustrated with it at that point. And the way I would see these shadow figures, the best way I can describe it is like the silhouette of a person. So you can't really tell like what kind of clothing they're wearing or if they even have hair. It's just a plain silhouette. For me, I would see maybe one or two at a time. Some looked like they were standing. Some looked like they were sitting or kneeling close to the floor. Here's where it got really scary. So when I was in my early 20s, me and my husband now, we were dating. I think we were engaged at the time, and he crashed with me in my room. And that night, I woke up and I had a very different shadow figure in my room. Like I said, the other shadow figures that I had seen before were just like a plain silhouette of a person, but this one was much bigger. It sort of looked like it was wearing maybe a jacket or something heavy, because I couldn't really see the silhouette of the shape of their body really. And this one was wearing a hat. It sort of looked like a top hat. Now, if you're still following along and you know what shadow figures are and you've heard of the Hatman, the story gets better. So not only was the shadow figure quite different than the rest, but this one was fully up against my bed. And this one was actually touching me, grabbing my arm and pulling me. I woke up in such fear. I literally felt like my soul was being wrestled away from my body. I don't know how to explain it, but I was screaming and I was jumping on top of my husband trying to get away from this thing, whatever it was. And my husband woke up. Well, he was my fiance at the time, but he woke up and he starts screaming, get off of her, get off of her. He has no idea what's even going on or what's happening. And then if you've ever experienced shadow figures, like once your eyes adjust and you sit with it for a few seconds, they sort of just like fade away. And they did. There were regular shadow figures standing in the room at the time with this bigger hatted one. And they eventually just disappeared. And the crazy thing about it is that eventually, me and my husband got married. We moved into our own home together. And I had gotten so used to seeing these shadow figures every night that I thought this is the way of life for me. When I moved into the new home, I noticed the first night I was there, I didn't see them. And I'm 37 years old now, and I've not seen a shadow figure standing in my room, not ever again. It wasn't until about, 3 or 4 years later, after this had happened to me, that I saw a documentary online just talking about shadow people, and the most infamous one, the scariest one, the Hatman. This is a figure that a lot of people have encountered and described this figure with a hat. And I've seen it with my own eyes. It's so hard to believe that this happened to me, and that I had to share this story because, yeah, I think that's I can't even believe it. I know a lot of other people won't either, but it did.
This next one's not a dream, but a very unusual and terrifying experience for both my best friend and I. I was getting home from school one night, and I was unwinding in my apartment. I had a big exam the next day, had to work early, so I was just headed for bed early that night. I lived alone at the time, and I would sleep with all the lights off, except for the hallway light. I laid in bed, closed my eyes, trying to fall asleep. But there was something that wouldn't let me. I had this very eerie feeling, and I just couldn't shake it off, and I don't know where it was coming from. It almost felt like I was being watched. I can't explain how, but it was almost like a sensation that someone was standing at the doorway, like outside of the bedroom door. So here I am, lying in the darkness, and I decide to look. I open my eyes, and I direct my attention towards the door. I just sat there for a few minutes, staring at the light that was coming in from the bottom of the bedroom door from the hallway. It's almost as if I was expecting for there to be a shadow of a person's feet from the other side. So one way or another, I just brushed it off. I thought to myself, I need to go to sleep. I have this exam tomorrow. I'm just gonna turn around and go to sleep. So I did. The following day, I was on the phone with my best friend, and I decided to tell her about this strange experience I had. Mind you, my best friend, she doesn't like hearing about anything paranormal, any spirits, or any of these kinds of experiences that I'm sharing on this. And I just felt like I needed to tell someone. So she was on the phone, and I just told her a little bit about it. I told her it's nothing even scary. It's more unusual. So she listens to me, but she doesn't really comment on it. 2 weeks later, she gives me a call. She says, "Hey, I've been meaning to talk to you about something, but it's taken me this long to bring it up because of how uncomfortable and uneasy it makes me feel." So I'm just sitting there like, wow, what is it? So she says, 2 weeks ago, I went to bed at night, and I was woken up by a breeze in my room. I realized that I had left the window open, so I got up to go shut it. I tried to go back to sleep, but then I heard something. My bedroom door was halfway open, and I just see the silhouette of a person standing there that I assumed was my mom, and I don't quite remember the exact words she said, but it was something like,
¿Estás despierta?
which means, "Are you awake?" To which I responded and said, "Huh?" So I sat up on my bed to kind of take a closer look when all of a sudden she starts charging towards me. I quickly turned on the lamp that was next to my bed, and all of a sudden she is gone, like in a blink of an eye. Now, I think it's important to note that my friend was not experiencing a sleep paralysis episode. We both experienced that before, and we both know what that feels like. The next morning, she goes downstairs and has breakfast with her parents, and she asked her mom, "Were you in my room last night?" And her mom says, "No, why?" So she doesn't go and give her mom all the details from the night before, but it did give her chills because she vividly remembers seeing and hearing someone talk to her that night. Just to top it all off, I gave her a call the following day and tell her about my experience. Both happened on the exact same night at the exact same time. And to this day, she does not like talking about it. She doesn't like thinking about it. That was probably the only time we ever discussed it. But personally, I feel like that was some sort of a linkage. I don't know.
This story takes place in my childhood home when I was a teenager, and it is the first time in my life that I believe I experienced a apparition and or a shadow figure. It's important for me to mention that up until this point in my life, nothing paranormal or scary had ever happened in this house. I was asleep in my bedroom, and the big thing, I always shut my door to my bedroom before I went to bed for no other reason than I wanted my privacy. I wake up in my bed one morning and I realize it's very early. I look at my clock, it's 3 something in the morning. It's very early, still some time to sleep, so I roll over to face my wall. I'm laying there with my eyes closed, and I don't know why, but something in the room felt different. Something felt off, something changed. So I roll back over after sensing this feeling to look in my room. And standing next to my bed is a massive cloaked figure. There were no discernible features at all. There was no face I could see. There was no arms or anything. It just looked like someone had thrown a very dark cloak over their body, and it was more so just their silhouette. But despite the fact that I couldn't make out a face or anything like that, it felt like it was looking at me. And in the moment, all I could think to do was throw the covers over my head. So that's what I did. Covered myself up and waited. So as I waited under my covers for probably a good 3 to 5 minutes, all I could hear is my heart pounding. And I'm just waiting to be grabbed or stabbed or something. I don't know. Whatever was out there, I assumed something bad was about to happen, but I was so scared, I cocooned myself in my covers and was just waiting for the worst. But after a few minutes of nothing, I kind of got pissed. So I made a little peephole out of my covers and kind of faced it up towards where my pillow would be, and slowly brought it down to where the shadow would have been. And of course, as soon as I get to where that shadow was standing, it's gone. So after I realize this, I throw the covers off of me and I go to turn on my light, which is by the door, because in my mind, something might still be in my room. But as I get up to go turn the light on, I realize that my bedroom door is wide open. So immediately, just to check him off the list, I went into my brother's room, which was right across the hall from me. His door was shut. He was in bed, sound asleep. I then look out into our living room area from the balcony. Our house was a very open floor plan, and don't see or hear anyone there either. The only thing I can say is I don't know if that door was open before or after I saw whatever it was I saw. But no matter how you cut it, whether it was before or after, there was a cloaked figure standing in my bedroom at around 3 in the morning. And before you chalk this up to something like sleep paralysis or a hallucination, it's very important that you understand, when I moved out of the house, my sister moved into that bedroom. And years later, she would tell me a story about an encounter she had with a very similar entity.
This is about the time that I saw a shadow person in my waking life. And I feel like you hear about them all the time, that like people see them in their sleep during sleep paralysis. And that sounds super scary, but I saw it in my waking life, completely like the middle of the day. So this happened a while ago when I was like 18. And I'll set the scene for you a little bit. So basically what was happening was like I was getting ready to go to my friend's house for a sleepover, and her parents were out of town. So, we were going to have some people over, have some drinks. Like the vibes were immaculate. Like my headspace, great. I was very excited. And I'll set up like this is how the layout of my house was. So like my bedroom mirror is here, and then like my door is right here, and then across the hall is my parents' door. And if both of our doors are open, I can look right into it and see into their room. So I'm facing the mirror, I think I was like straightening my hair and like listening to Nicki Minaj, like probably rapping along to Super Bass or something. And out of my peripheral, I see someone standing in my parents' room, and at this time, nobody was home. Just my brother was downstairs playing video games. And then my mom was out running errands, and she was going to drive me to my friend's house once she got home. So I knew for a fact that nobody was home. or no one was home that would like fit the profile of what I saw. So I'm looking in the mirror, doing my hair, and then I see someone, like a really tall person, standing in my parents' room out of the corner of my eye. So I turn to look, just half expecting nothing to be there, because like what would be there? So, you know, I'm like, like turn around, like turn and look. And there was like this 7 foot tall. So basically it like looked like this giant man, maybe. But then like it had like horns that like went like, they like curled inwards, like very like Maleficent style. So I turn and look. Oh, and then the color, and like it wasn't like there were no features on it. It was just like black, like like a color of black that I've never seen in real life. It was like somebody cut a chunk of reality out in the shape of this. So yeah, I'm doing my hair, see that, turn and look at it, and then I like looked back at the mirror at myself, kind of like how like if you saw something unbelievable, you would like turn to your friend, like, did you see that too? So I did that to myself in the mirror. And then I decided to look back, because part of me was like, that's not real. I had a tiny hallucination. I don't know what I thought, but I was like, look back, and it's still standing there. And then it like starts to run at me. Like it like is like so still, just like staring. And then it like goes to run at me, to which I then slam my bedroom door shut, turn my hair straightener off, throw everything I need into my sleepover bag, and then like just terrified, I'm like, holy, my brother's downstairs. My brother's downstairs. That thing is loose in the house. It's loose in the house. What if it's, or also slash, I was like a little scared it was going to be like right at my door. But then at the same time, I'm like, that wasn't real. That can't be real. So I open my door, nothing's there, and then I just like run downstairs and I tell my brother that like we have to go because mom is going to drive me to my sleepover, to which he was like, why do I have to come? And I was just because I didn't tell anyone about that thing for like, I don't think I brought it up to my family for like at least 3 years, maybe longer. Like I might have been in my mid-20s by the time I brought it up to my parents and let my family know about it, because I was always kind of scared it would like know somehow. It would be like, oh, you're talking about me. So yeah, anyways, that's the time I saw a shadow person in real life.
We moved to the country 4 years ago into a house that was built in 1999, which is not very old in house years. A couple of months after moving in, we started remodeling, which of course is when everything started. I started hearing footsteps, specifically when I was in the basement, and I would hear them above me when no one was home. And then the lights started flickering, but both of these things we just kind of played off as like, whatever. But then I saw the shadow people. One night my husband and I were in bed watching TV with our bedroom door open. He was asleep, but I was still awake. Something from the corner of my eye caught my attention, and I looked out through the open bedroom door. And peeking around the corner of the hallway was a shadow, a tall, thin, human-looking shadow. And the hallway was completely dark, and this shadow was darker than the dark. The shadow was basically coming through the wall. I saw it for a split second, and then it was gone. About 3 weeks later, same situation. We're in bed watching TV, my husband's asleep, and I'm still awake. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed movement. And there was another shadow figure, except for this time, this one was shorter and had a more feminine figure. We finished the remodel and really have not had any incidents since. Except for a couple months after these incidents, we went to a neighbor's house for a party. We were pretty new at this time, and we were chatting with an older guy who was asking us whereabouts we lived. And we were describing, like, between what roads and yada yada. And he says, oh, you live across the street from the murder property. And it turns out that this guy was a retired detective who had worked this case. He then proceeds to tell us that in 1983, an older couple was murdered across the street. They owned a piece of property that they put an old school bus on and used that as like a summer vacation place. He had been left in the road and she had been left on the bus, and their bodies had been mutilated. Now, our house had not been built at the time of the murders, but it was a really interesting history. And this case remains unsolved to this day. Now, a couple of months after we learned this history, I was listening to a paranormal podcast, and they were talking about how a ghost had visited somebody in their dreams and helped solve a murder. And that's when it hit me. Could these shadow people have been this couple from across the street? So it took me a while, but I did finally find a photo of both of them. He was tall and thin, and she was short and had a womanly figure.
Here's a very messed up, disturbing paranormal story time that happened in my old house. So I don't think I've told this story on here before. I hardly ever tell it, like, in real life. But basically, if y'all have been following me for a while, you know that my old house was very haunted, mostly by a lot of negative entities, and most of which came in the form of shadow people. My first ever memory is the shadow person walking back and forth across the room. Anyway, I digress. So my younger brother only saw things when he was a toddler, but then he stopped really seeing things. I mean, like, we all had experiences that were weird, and like a lot of poltergeist activity and stuff like that, but he never saw anything until this one night. I want to say he was about 14. So he was asleep, and my dog was sleeping in the room with him, and he woke up and he saw the same shadow figure that I used to see all the time when I was a kid, crawling across the floor toward the bed. He said that the dog started growling and climbed up next to his head as if to protect him, and the figure went under the bed. The next morning, my dog was unable to open her eyes. Like, her eyes were watering, and when we would try to get them open, it was like they were clouded over. So my family members rushed her to the vet, and the vet basically said that she had developed glaucoma, but like she had never had any signs of anything like that before then. So she just spontaneously developed an eye condition. Now, my bio family was crazy religious, so they like insisted that it was demons. I don't know what I believe about demons. I don't know if it was a demon, but I definitely, if that was caused by the entity that my brother saw, it definitely was not a good entity. Now, I haven't seen my dog in years, but the last I knew, she still had the eye condition. It never went away.
My daughter is 3.5, turning 4 in the next couple of months, and she, every so often, within, is like literally from when she could talk, she has been telling us that she sees shadow people in her room. And when it first started, I really tried to not have any kind of reaction because I didn't want to scare her. We're not super religious or anything, but the first time she said that they were so kind and that they helped her go back to sleep. So I thought, okay, maybe she woke up from a dream and it was just, it was something that's like, how kids are. Like, she just thought that she saw something because she had a dream and fell back asleep. But she's been talking about them now for years. She's going to turn 4. And this morning she told me that she woke up and the shadow people were in her room. And I asked her, oh, well, what do they say? And she said, well, Mommy, they don't say anything. They don't have mouths. I said, oh, that's great, sweetie. Were they nice to you? And she said, yeah, they're nice. They don't really say or do anything. Sometimes I can hear them in my head. Oh, okay. And what do they say to you in your head? And she said that they basically just say, go back to sleep. And that she didn't really have much to say about it. She said that she's not scared of them, but she doesn't really want to talk to them because they're just shadows. She said that she's not scared of them, which is good, I guess. But that she doesn't like to look at them for too long because they don't have faces. And I asked how many of them are there? And it's always 2. There's always 2 of them. She says that she wakes up and the shadow people are in her room. And sometimes they dance. But they don't scare her.
Make sure to like and subscribe for more chilling mysteries. And until next time, stay safe, stay aware, question everything, and please stay out of the shadows.